The American dream, right? A sprawling farmhouse, acres of green land, a fresh start for the Petrova family. For Mark and Anya, it was a paradise for their two young children, Leo and Mia. The city was a memory, replaced by the promise of birdsong and starry nights. The house, a relic of a bygone era, stood proud, its peeling paint and creaking floors just part of its rustic charm. They moved in, full of hope, their laughter echoing through rooms that had been silent for far too long. But some silences are born of patience, waiting to be broken. It started small, as these things often do. A whisper on the edge of hearing, dismissed as the wind. A fleeting shadow in the corner of an eye, blamed on fatigue from unpacking. A child's toy, found in a room it was never in. Anya would find cupboard doors ajar that she was certain she had closed. Mark would hear footsteps on the floor above when he was home alone. They were just quirks, they told each other. The normal settling sounds of an old house. But a cold knot of unease began to tighten in Anya's stomach, a feeling she couldn't quite shake, like the constant, unnerving sensation of being watched. Then the children started talking. At first, it was just whispers between themselves, tales of a new imaginary friend. But the descriptions became more specific, more unsettling. They called him the tall man. Leo said he had no face, just long, spindly fingers that stretched all the way to the floor. Mia, her voice trembling, said he would stand in the corner of their room at night, just watching them. She said he didn't like their laughter. Mark tried to rationalize it. Overactive imaginations, the stress of the move. But when Anya saw the raw fear in her children's eyes, she knew this was no game. The tall man was real to them, and his presence was beginning to bleed into their waking world. The breaking point came during a rainy afternoon. Mark was trying to fix a drafty window in the master bedroom when his hammer slipped, striking the wall and cracking the old plaster. Behind it, not insulation, but darkness. Prying away the damaged section, they uncovered a hidden space, a small, forgotten room sealed away from the world. It was empty, save for a thick layer of dust and a single object on the floor, a leather-bound journal. The embossed name on the cover read Eleanor Vance. As Anya opened the brittle pages, a musty, cloying scent filled the air, and the temperature in the room plummeted. That journal became Anya's obsession. She spent every spare moment poring over Eleanor's spidery, frantic script. The entries began optimistically, much like their own story, detailing the joy of moving into a new home in the late 1800s. But the tone quickly soured. Eleanor wrote of a shadow that crept at the edges of her life, an entity she called the Silent One. It fed on happiness, turning joy into fear and love into despair. It had tormented her family, whispering poison into their ears, driving them to madness and ruin. The house wasn't just haunted, it was a trap, a place where this malevolent being had latched itself, drawing energy from the lives of those who dared to dwell within its walls. With the discovery of the journal, the hauntings escalated dramatically. The subtle whispers became clear, disembodied voices hissing their names from empty hallways. Doors didn't just creak open, they slammed shut with terrifying force. Shadows no longer flickered at the periphery, they coalesced into tall, distorted figures that would vanish the moment you turned to face them. Mark's skepticism, his shield of logic, began to fracture. He could no longer blame the wind or old pipes for the handprint that appeared on a steamy bathroom mirror or the chilling lullaby that drifted from the nursery's baby monitor when the children were sound asleep beside them. Mark's final wall of denial crumbled one evening. He was in the kitchen when a glass on the counter levitated 2 feet into the air, hovered for a heart-stopping second, and then shattered against the opposite wall. The explosion of glass was followed by a low, guttural laugh that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The blood drained from his face. It was undeniable. It was real, and it was in their home. The tall man wasn't just a child's nightmare. It was a waking reality for them all. The house was not their sanctuary. It was their prison. The entity's focus then shifted, turning its full, malevolent attention onto the children. Leo would wake up screaming, claiming the tall man had touched his face with cold, bony fingers. Mia's drawings, once filled with rainbows and smiling suns, became dark scribbles of a towering, faceless figure looming over 2 small children in a bed. One afternoon, Anya found a trail of deep, inexplicable scratches running down the outside of their bedroom door. Desperation clawed at her. This thing wasn't just trying to scare them anymore. It wanted to hurt them. It wanted to take her children. Fueled by a mother's terror, Anya returned to Eleanor's journal, searching for an answer, a weapon, anything. In the final, nearly illegible pages, she found it. Scrawled with a shaking hand, Eleanor described a desperate, last-ditch ritual. It wasn't an exorcism, but a banishment, a way to sever the entity's anchor to the house using personal sacrifice and specific incantations performed at the home's heart. Eleanor had failed, her entry ending mid-sentence, but Anya saw their only sliver of hope within those desperate words. It was a terrifying gamble, but doing nothing was no longer an option. Under the oppressive gloom of a stormy night, with the wind howling like a tormented spirit, they decided to fight back. The heart of the house, according to Eleanor's notes, was the very foundation stone in the cellar. While Mark stood guard at the top of the cellar stairs, armed with a heavy iron fire poker, his face a mask of grim determination, Anya descended into the damp, earthy darkness. She drew the symbols from the journal around the foundation stone, her voice shaking as she began the incantation. Above, the house erupted. The screaming, the banging, the roar of a furious, cornered beast echoed through the structure. Mark yelled for her to hurry as the cellar door began to splinter under a powerful, unseen assault. Anya chanted faster, her voice rising above the din, pouring every ounce of her will, her love for her family, into the ancient words. The air grew impossibly cold, and a monstrous shadow with long, grasping arms descended the stairs towards her. Then, silence. An abrupt, deafening quiet that was almost as terrifying as the preceding chaos. The entity was gone. The oppressive weight that had suffocated them for months had lifted. They stumbled out of the cellar, bruised and terrified, but alive. They gathered their sleeping children and spent the rest of the night huddled together in the living room, waiting for the dawn. The sun rose, but it brought no comfort. The house was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. It felt empty, hollow, waiting. They had won the battle, but the war felt far from over. The scratches were still on the door. The memory of the tall man was burned into their minds. As they looked out at the morning mist, they knew they couldn't stay, but a chilling question lingered in the silent air. If the entity was banished from the house, where did it go? And was it truly gone for good? Thank you for watching. If you enjoy tales of suspense and things that go bump in the night, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next one. Chills and Charms Stories.